Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Renatus J.A.M. My name is Jay Stark.
And I'm Matt Snyder.
Oh, there we go. Took you a second. Matt has taken social distancing to a whole new level. So I am in studio alone and Matt is at a distance.
Yep. Was there a delay? Because right as soon as you stopped talking, I jumped in.
Oh, well, there you go. Yes, there was a delay. There's a little bit of delay on us, I'm thinking. But you know what,
Sorry,
Matt,
folks.
how you been doing? We haven't been on the air in 2 weeks now. How's it been?
Yep. Well, I've been good. I've been real good. Had a wonderful birthday weekend. That was fantastic.
Oh, happy
Gotta
birthday.
go play. Yes. And just been working from home, making stuff happen.
Nice.
So, how about yourself, Jay?
You know what? I am doing fantastic. You know, at
Yeah.
Renatus, we've had the new comp plan go live. And then we were able to stream live for the very first time out of Helios. So we had a live education recording here in studio with Mr. Eric Counts. And then, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but I dropped a little hint last Thursday that we actually had Mr. Woody Woodward come into studio. And more coming on that soon, I promise. You guys will be able to hear more about what he was doing here, but it was way exciting. And now, this week, we have Independence Day coming up. Do you have any exciting plans, Matt?
No. I wish I did. We are socially distant as my wife could go into labor at pretty much any point. And if I am positive, I do not get to be there for the birth of my baby. So
like positive as in upbeat and happy?
Yeah, they don't let happy people into the hospital anymore. It's the craziest thing. Yeah, positive with COVID. So yeah, I'm just doing my best to stay free of it, so we can have a baby and get back home. And anyways,
nice. Yeah. Well, right on.
Yep.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about our featured guest today. So
yes.
Yeah. How long have you known Mr. Tom Robinson?
Me?
You.
Not very long.
Not very long. So Tom, I'm excited to have you out. I'm excited to have you out on the call today. You were actually in our top 10. So we have a whole new top 10 that's being presented on the Founders webinar. And this week, I think you were number 5. Is that right?
That's correct.
Nice. So you were featured on the top 10. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the Renatus?
All right. Well, first of all, I have to tell you guys, I've been getting steadily more nervous for the last couple hours. I've spoken in front of hundreds of people. I've led, probably 50 Renatus intros. And it's not public speaking so much as being on with you guys. So I got started with Renatus about 6 years ago. So I've, had an experience, Jay, of you sort of running the show. I mean, don't tell Bob I said that, but come on.
6 years ago. Yeah. We were a much different company 6 years ago than we are today, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's my story. I was raised in an environment that familiar for a lot of people, right? Like, you have to go to school, get good grades, go to college. I took a year off between high school and college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I thought going to college right out of I would have partied my way out of college. I was like, give me a year. And my parents freaked out because they're like, if you take a year off, you're never going to go. Your life will never turn out. After a year of delivering pizzas and bussing tables, I suddenly was more inspired to get a degree.
Nice.
So I went to school, and I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And I started my first business when I was 6. I made origami purses that we sold door to door for $0.25. It was very lucrative. So I went to college, and I was like, I'll study business because I want to do stuff in business. And my guidance counselor said, if you want to do stuff in business, don't study business because you're going to need an MBA. And if you get an MBA and your undergraduate was also in business, employers won't like that.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, I don't want to learn business for an employer, but okay, we'll see how this goes. And I studied economics, and I loved the social aspects of college. I loved economic theory. I'd be in classes with 350 people, and I was the only person in the room that loved the class, like including the professors and TAs. I was like, this is great. And then my last class that I needed to get my degree was a statistics class. And basically what I learned in that class was how to use statistics to lie for my corporate overlord.
No, it's not lie. It's how to frame the conversation.
That's a creative way of saying lie.
Here's how you get a pile of numbers and make them say anything we want you to. And I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not doing that. And I graduated college, and I knew that I'd always known that I didn't really want to go to work for somebody. But I graduated, and I was like, okay, well, an MBA is just a way to get a different kind of job for somebody else. I'm not going to do that. So I'll just go out in the world and figure this out. And I did a lot of different kind of business projects. I used to say that I was a serial business owner because I started multiple companies. And then I got schooled by Renatus and learned that if you have to show up every day to have money happen, that's not a business, that's a job.
Owning a job. Yep.
Right? Yep. It was exhausting, and it was stressful, and sometimes it went well and sometimes it didn't. And it was just like, it was a lot of stress. So I did eventually go into corporate America. I made it almost 3 years. And just sort of cemented for me that my parents assured me if I just got a job for a year, then I'd love it, I'd appreciate it, and my life would turn out. And at the end of the first year, I went back to my parents. I was like, this sucks. They're like, all you need to do is have a job for 2 years and you'll appreciate it. I was like, wait, I don't like having someone else get to determine when I need to be here and when I get to leave.
Right.
And so I was, quit that. I met my wife there. That was really the best part. We quit, we got married, we took some time off, and we're kind of like trying to figure out what to do. And a good friend of mine introduced me to Renatus. And my first thought was, you know that those training companies are all BS, right? I don't know if anybody on the line has told one of their friends that, they show up, they put up a circus tent, and then they blow out of town. Because, along my earlier journey, I became a real estate agent for a couple of years. I wanted to learn real estate investing. I wanted to provide the kind of value for my community that I saw real estate investing making possible. And I went to a couple weekend boot camps, and it was just like, what I saw was a lot of people getting really hyped up and spending a lot of money, and then hitting Monday and being poorer. I was like, okay, but he was a good friend of mine. He was persistent. My first real experience with Renatus was a Mark Kohler Saturday intensive out of Chicago.
Oh, that's a good one.
And, right? I think I probably got 10% of what he said that day, and it completely reorganized the way that I saw the world.
Right.
Well, that 10% was probably huge, right? Like that 10% was all you could learn in that day, because boy, does that guy deliver content. I mean, it just dumps. He'll literally just hook you up to the fire hose, turn it on, and you're just drinking from it. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's incredible. That was 6 years ago. And I got to be with you guys and, for his recording in March. And we have my team in St. Louis has a study group, and we're now going into tax and legal. So I'm rewatching the class that I was there live for in March, now 6 years after first getting introduced to Mark. But I've developed, I've grown, right? So that there are things that he says that now are part of me, and there are things that he says that were too above where I was to be useful. Even in March, like things have shifted, right?
Isn't that cool to see that kind of progression happen though? As you start to expand your mind, expand your opportunities, you come back to the same information and realize while the information hasn't changed, you have. And so your ability to adapt and adopt the information is completely transformed over where it was the first time you came around to it.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That was on point, Jay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here. One of the things when I first got started, the idea of having lifetime access didn't mean anything. So I was like, well, I'm going to do the classes and then I'll know the information. So who cares? But as we, as we grow, as we develop, it's that we can appreciate and utilize information at different levels, really is what it comes down to.
Gotcha. Dude, that's awesome. So Mark was really your first exposure to the Renatus education then?
Yes.
All right. And so how long after you sat in that intensive did you decide, all right, I'm in, let's do this?
I think it was about 11:30 that morning.
Nice.
So 2.5 hours in,
oh, nice.
I was like, I'm doing this thing. I am doing this thing because this is what I want. This speaks to me as an entrepreneur. I was clear 2.5 hours in. Like there are so many things that he's already said that I've never heard. I got to get a whole lot more of this.
Yeah.
So
now that you've experienced that progression, now that you've from 6 years ago till this past March to even today, what have been some of your favorite growing experiences that you've had where you're like, oh man, I went through this one thing and I was able to learn this in a whole new way?
Oh, I've got a variety of those. My favorite. So Matt, my wife and I are also really quarantined. We've got family with it would be really, really bad to get it'd be really bad to give COVID to somebody else. So when we got started, we were sleeping on an air mattress in a drafty Chicago apartment. And if we were quarantined there, that would be awful. So so about 3 years ago, we decided to move to Denver. My sister and brother-in-law were here and had a new baby, and we're like, let's go out there. And we looked at house prices in Denver, and they were just cuckoo. And one of the things we were able to help my sister and brother-in-law buy a house, and they paid like $430,000 for a house that back in St. Louis, where I grew up, would be $80,000. Right, so it was right. It was just like
I've seen those.
So we moved out here, we rented a place, and we started looking for, started applying really the real estate specific, the valuing properties, the finding properties off market, the negotiation skills that Bob teaches, which I'm so grateful for. So instead of being quarantined in a drafty apartment on an air mattress, we are in a historic home. Nice. And I am answering your question, Jay. Just give me a second. So the process of acquiring this house was remarkable. We were renting. We met a couple that had the most beautiful house on the block, probably the neighborhood. It's a historic home. It was built by the top female athlete of the 20th century, and her husband was a professional wrestler, like the first evil professional wrestler character. Pretty cool. And so we found this house. They were in a situation, they wanted to move. They wanted to do so quickly. And we ended up negotiating this house with them for a little over $400,000 below their asking price.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And part of the growth of that was, I was a real estate agent for 2 years, and it would give me a stomach ache if someone wanted me to submit an offer more than a couple $1,000s below the asking price. And we looked at the numbers. The couple were hoarders. There was a variety of things that we couldn't see. There was uncertainty, right? And we took all of that into consideration, and we put together an offer, and I was able to communicate to them why we could only offer $450,000 less than they wanted, while telling them that if they put it on the market, they could sell it for $200,000 over what we were offering tomorrow. But crafting that conversation and walking through the logic and having them get where we were coming from and how that worked and how this really would be a solution to their problem, we ended up, buying a dream house for a fraction of what it's worth. I mean, sort of like we spent, a couple tens of thousands of dollars on our education and got hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity in our own home as a result of that.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Going through the process of walking into somebody's house and going, look, I know that you think your house is worth this, but let's talk this through and let's solve your problems. Let's, address how this needs to go for us in a way that had it come out to be a win-win, that was an extraordinary experience.
That's really awesome. So what changed? Is it just the confidence in you, knowing what you know now, that you were able to go in there with that confidence and say, hey, you know what? Let me just show you where we're coming from, why we're coming from here, and what other possibilities are. Is that really the biggest change that you experienced?
With regards to real estate, I have nearly infinitely more confidence than I did 6 years ago. And I have a whole lot more confidence than I did 3 years ago. And I have way more confidence than I did a year ago. So that continues to grow. We're having a conversation with a couple that are about to retire, and they're just getting into self-directing for the first time. And we're helping them get into a really great little rental deal. And it barely pings on my radar. And there are so many things that they're concerned about and freaked out about. And they're like, I don't know about this. And, because they haven't done it before.
Right.
So there's
their first time.
Yeah. And it helps going to property tours, and it helps, doing the training and actually like going through and having our instructors are amazing at pointing out things that I wouldn't otherwise think to look for. And I've learned a lot of questions that I otherwise wouldn't have thought to ask that shed light on deals and situations. And it's with real estate, but it's with people too, in a broader sense, in terms of being able to, make a difference with other human beings.
Dude, I love that. I love how you said, I had a conversation that would have previously given me a stomach ache. I had a conversation that I couldn't have had before. I am now able to have conversations that would have been unimaginable just a short time ago. Doesn't that almost make you start to wonder, where am I going to be a year from now or 5 years from now? What conversations am I going to be able to have then?
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And that's really on the real estate side. Like there's a velocity that we develop as investors. Like looking at a deal when I first started could take forever. And now it's like 10 minutes. I can tell whether or not this is something to spend more time on. So there's like that kind of velocity within the real estate world. But also like one of the things that I love about my participation is my growth in working with people. Right? Because when Noah first started talking to me about this, he's like, and we can sell it and make a ton of money. And I had just come off of a really disheartening sales experience. And I was like, cool, I want to learn real estate investing and business development for myself, but I'm never talking to anybody else about this. And that was, that was before Mark Kohler. So by 3:00 in the afternoon of Mark Kohler's, that first day of training, I was like, oh my God, I got to tell everybody about this.
That's hilarious. Okay. So that's what changed.
Yeah. It's kind of like, look, I'm hungry. I want this food for myself. And then you just go have the best meal. Like you kind of got to tell the people you care about that that's the place to go. And, the opportunities that I've had I have extraordinary people on my team, if you will. I've got some great friends that we're in Colorado, live about an hour north of us, Sarah and Jesse came out to an event in Denver, had a similar experience to mine. Their minds were blown. They jumped in. They're running a successful real estate business. They're picking up rentals. They just became 5-stars. Like extraordinary. I've had extraordinary opportunities to work with them and help them grow in this, and a phenomenal team in St. Louis. And just every week there are opportunities for mutual growth and benefit and support. And ultimately that's the aspect of this organization that I'm most profoundly grateful for.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. I love hearing that. It's not success seems to be a byproduct as people evolve, right? As you are evolving correctly, as you are absorbing the right things into your mind, as you are surrounding yourselves by the right people, then you start to attract success into your life. It's interesting how that goes through phases and how it shifts forward. And so I love hearing your story. I love the way that you're talking about the transitions that you've made. And I know every once in a while I'll catch myself in the middle of a conversation and just go, oh, wow, I can't believe that I am able to have these conversations now and have them with people that understand what we're talking about, where 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me, what out of all the classes that you've watched, which one has there been one that has absolutely benefited you more than the rest, or one that's benefiting you right now?
That's a great question. I have a few different ways to answer that. So I'm going to start with this one. One of the things that I did before I got connected with Renatus is I started a nonprofit called Live Feed. And we worked with musicians and venues to turn events into food and fun drives to feed kids. And I did that for 2 years, and it was glorious and satisfying and inspiring and terrible and difficult, and it was a wonderful experience. And I didn't have the financial and business acumen to have it work long term. And recently, as you know, Renatus has a new series of classes that are specifically aimed at business development, which ultimately is where my heart is. And it's kind of a toss, because I did the Done Deal Formula and then Eric Count's automation. And I got to the end of those 2 classes and I was so annoyed. I was like, if I knew even half of the stuff that I know after watching those 2 days of training, that nonprofit would be a national, phenomenon. And so now I'm like, do I go back and rekindle that? So there's some classes that I find really annoying in a really empowering kind of way. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah,
why, over and over again, why didn't I know this before?
Well, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now I'm really, I think of so Chris Wilson, I have 20 something, 23. We just bought our 24th rental, and I go through his classes over and over again. Thank you. So I go through his classes over and over again, and every time I do, I'm like, oh, why didn't I hear that last time? That would have saved me that headache. So, and Mark Kohler's, as I said, has been profound. Right now, sort of like if I had to pick my favorite right now, would definitely be Eric Count, and that might be because he just did a class and is top of mind. But there was a way that the building business credit class that he just recorded, there was a level of integrity. And when I first heard about Renatus, I was like, all those things are BS, because there are so many things that are BS. So having someone get up and say, look, if you're trying to develop business credit so you can screw people, get out. That the heart of that, like the consistency of the consistency of beating the drum of integrity and acting in moral, ethical, win-win ways in this in our culture is really inspiring. And he was funny and he delivered.
Yeah,
and so it's like, here's how to go through this. And, this isn't a quick, easy, get rich without work situation. Be financially responsible and have the right tools and, build something extraordinary.
It is phenomenally rare in this day and age to find a company that has an ethical, moral standard that they apply regularly. And you can actually see that resonating in all of the classes as the instructors are stepping up. They see that standard that's really, it starts with Bob and it works its way down through the entire organization. But they see that standard and they rise to it because they're like, absolutely do not want to disappoint or in any way come in somehow and not rise to that level. So that's awesome that you talked about that, because Eric really he does such a phenomenal job of being able to share information in a concise and easy to understand pattern. And then he always couples it with humor, and he's got a great stage presence. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've got a question. I've got a question for you, Tom. You've got 24 rentals. What was it that got you into that first deal? Like most people really get jammed up between getting educated and making that first leap. That's why we do complimentary lifetime access. That's why we want all of the tools and things that we do or provide. The reason being is we want people to take that step, but be ready. What was it for you? What made you jump into that first deal or to put that offer out there?
I really can't emphasize enough the value of doing this with other people and having a community. So left to my own devices, I would have maybe watched the classes. It's been invaluable for me having study groups and having weekly occasions where, kind of like getting a trainer, you're much more likely to show up at the gym if someone's waiting for you and you're paying them money kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what happened is I had a couple really good friends that I wanted to build something with. And I knew them from a, previous kind of life experience. And it's like, these are great people. I'd love to build something with these guys. And I heard Bob Tierney say over and over again, don't do real estate deals with people who haven't done this education. So I'm like, well, okay. So, but I want to do real estate deals with really great people. So I just, went to work and had a number of conversations and had them get started with their education. And, we kind of masterminded and we were living in Chicago at the time and Chicago, kind of like Denver, starter rentals, $400,000, part of Chicago we were living in. So we started doing research and found Decatur, Illinois. The market has kind of gone like this for the last 30 years. So like, if we're going to build a rental portfolio, let's do that. And we kind of gave each other the confidence to actually go and find a deal and pull the trigger. Because, there are some things that I'm strong in, and there are lots and lots and lots of things that I'm weak in. And being able to connect with and collaborate with people that have their own sets of strengths and weaknesses, is invaluable. That was really key.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that's just the same thing. For concept or just having friends or immersing myself in a community of people who are doing, I was about 15 years old and it was the gym, but that's what really got me going, right? That's what got me started was friends and family and other people that I know and love and trust are doing it. And it gives you the confidence to step in there and do that. I just wondered for you what that was. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. I know one thing that you mentioned earlier was not really appreciating the complimentary lifetime access when you first came on board. And I know that one thing that I've taken a lot of comfort in is the ability to go back and watch classes again and again, just like you said, where you can start to harvest more information out of the class. You're going to start seeing more things and understanding things at a different level than you did the first time that you watched the class. I've just found so much power in that ability.
Yeah, I feel like it really builds your confidence. I guess, for me speaking, I didn't dare go out there and apply the concepts of velocity banking until I had watched that class 4 times. I really needed to wrap my head around it. I don't know, but like I had to go through it over and over and over again. And that 4th time, I finally felt like I really had a good grasp on the concept. I was comfortable and with the numbers and the concepts, and so I was, it gave me the confidence to go out and do it.
Right on.
Yeah.
So Tom, let me ask you this, because I know one of my, I get excited every time I watch a class. I go to a recording. I always get excited and I go, oh yeah, that's my next new thing. That's where I'm going to focus my energy, because I can see the possibilities of all of these different strategies in real estate. Have you had opportunity where you were able to implement a strategy that was just fun for you? Something that was a little unique where you were like, wow, I didn't even know that was possible a couple of years ago. And here I am doing this crazy seller finance leased back. I'm just making something up now. But have you had that opportunity to see those crazy kind of deals come about?
I haven't done a seller finance lease back wraparound yet. But
yeah,
we started a small short-term rental business, and we leased other properties, furnished it, put it on Airbnb, and made significant profit above our expenses. And I had heard of Airbnb. I'd stayed in Airbnbs, but it hadn't occurred to me that I could, without buying a house, I could go create. My wife is an interior designer and rehab. Our first company was an interior design and rehab company. We had other people to pay us to learn how to do that stuff, which was great. So she makes space incredible, but it never would have even pinged on my radar that I could go and use somebody else's property to provide extraordinary space and amazing experiences for, hundreds of people. And, I got into that as a result of this education, and then took my business to a whole different level when J.A.M. came out with a 3-day freaking masterclass.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's some things I'm doing that are really dumb. Like on Facebook, instant messaging me, like, okay, love you, man. Thanks for saving my biscuits.
Oh,
it's an interesting use of real estate that wouldn't have occurred to me. And it actually has other things. We recently acquired an RV that we're renovating, which is a similar concept, but would have been completely outside of the realm of even something that would have shown up for me.
Right. And that class, the short-term rental master class that you just talked about with J.A.M, those 3 days, those classes didn't exist when you came on 6 years ago. No. That's just another.
You know how much money I had to pay for those? They just gave them to me.
They just gave them to me. Yeah, I love how the education continues to I don't want to say evolve. I feel like I've said that a lot today, but it continues to make progress forward as well. The education continues to say, hey, you know what? We need to append a little bit right here, because now the market is shifting dramatically all over the place. And I expect in the next 5 years, we're going to start to see strategies come about that have either had died off long ago and that are now going to make a resurgence based on current trends today, or we're going to see all new strategies that we haven't even thought of yet. So it's pretty awesome that you're now seeing a new thing with being able to potentially use RVs for either short-term rentals or however you're doing that. But that's pretty remarkable that we have an education that it's living in that manner as far as being updated constantly.
Yeah, we as human beings continue to develop, and this education continues to develop to support. The times they are changing. I've heard a bunch of people say, "Wait till life is like it was before." I don't think it's ever going to be like it was before. So let's grow, expand, and fill some new spaces and make a difference for people.
So you brought up the Profits course, and you talked a little bit about you went through Troy Dunn's class, and then you also went through Eric's class. Tell me, do you think that the Profits course is beneficial for all business owners?
I've met over 1,000 business owners. I've had what's your business about conversation with hundreds of business owners. And I've never met anybody that wouldn't significantly benefit from that training. First of all, because it's holographic, right? Who doesn't want to increase their sales by as much as 400%? Show me, there just aren't a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, generally are overwhelmed, stressed out, things are dropping through the cracks. Okay, well, how about automating most of that stuff so that it happens more consistently, so it better serves your customers, so that it expands your reach, so that it gives you more free time, so that you can actually have the experience that you were hoping to have as a business owner, like having some free time when you got started.
Right.
And the Troy's training on how to craft a story and how to, whether you're looking to get on national media or not, if you're crafting stories that really, stories are the most powerful way that we have to communicate. So if you increase the effectiveness of your story, of the storytelling of your business, it will increase the effectiveness of your business. So just across the board, and there've been a lot of people that I've talked to about Renatus and what it makes available, and they're like, great, I'd love to do real estate investing someday, but I'm working 80 hours a week in my business. Okay, well, how about if we free some of that time up and have you make more money and you can...
So hang on. Did you just basically say that the Profits courses could be a gateway for all business owners? That they would be able to take the information that's in the Profits courses, not only save some time and money, but then they may be interested in knowing what to do with all that extra time and money and could benefit from some additional real estate investment courses behind that?
That's what I said. Yes.
Was that enough of a leading question?
That's a great open-ended question.
I think business owners should buy it.
Yeah, it may not be 100%, but close to. Mark would know this better, but he's said over 90% of his successful business owners and financially successful people and he does thousands and thousands of consultations. 90-something% have real estate as part of what they're doing.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love, Rob Sperry, I think he was the one who coined the phrase decades and days. These guys are consummate professionals, all of the different Profits instructors that come out, and they share just no holds barred on how they've not only acquired this information, but how to apply it as quickly as possible. Yeah. And so I think that Profits course especially is just education on steroids. I don't know how to say that better. It's just so much information in such a small package. It's awesome.
Well, and whatever your business is, whatever your passion is, there are fundamentals, and there are if all you're doing is 30-second radio spots, you're probably in trouble. So there's also the changing landscape, and if your business isn't doing anything online right now, you're probably not in business anymore.
Or you won't be for very long anyway.
Right? So how do you make that transition? How do you use these tools? How do you demystify? It's like, kind of like buying your first rental. Like, what do you talk? Facebook ads? I'm running my business. How do I figure that stuff out? Well, take somebody who's spent 10 years learning that stuff and distills it into 6 hours and, then get back to work building your business. And I do love that it doesn't matter whether you're passionate about real estate or, dog grooming or like whatever it is. It's fuel for, it's a match for fueling your passion.
So anybody who wants to take their business and progress it forward, that's who really is the perfect demographic for profits.
Yep.
Nice.
Or I would add another group, which is people who are disillusioned with their W-2 and have had an idea. But again, it's building confidence, right? So I've had this idea, or I want to figure something out. And, Mark Kohler says really clearly, don't quit your day job and go start something, right? Like have your business grow you out of your job. But for people who are like, man, because we're not taught how to do business. We're not taught how to do business in a freaking MBA program, So for people who are like, how do I make that transition? How do I unleash this passion that I have inside how do I fulfill on this thing that I'm committed to that I just don't know the next steps? It's like, profits, I'd have them do the essentials also, honestly, but it's like to build the foundation for having all of that work. But it's like, yeah, this will show you the steps. It'll demystify the process of unleashing what you're really committed to.
Yeah. I love that. So anybody who wants to start a business, anybody who currently owns a business, anybody that has a W-2, anybody who doesn't have a W-2 and wants to get started in their own business, they're the perfect demographic for profits.
Yeah. If you've been working for the government for 20 years and you're waiting on your pension in 10 years and you don't want to do anything else, don't get profits.
Don't.
Everybody else will make it there.
Everybody else is going to be the perfect person for profits. That's awesome. Nothing against government workers. We love you too.
No, great. We need them. Awesome. But if that's what you love, this isn't. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Well, you know what, Tom, it has been awesome having you on here and talking a little bit about your experience and history with Renatus. It's amazing to hear just how far you've come, how much you've learned and how you've grown and just how that's impacted not only your life, but the lives of everybody around you, starting with your family, but also moving out from there and the people that you do business with. The contractors that you employ and the people that help to facilitate and support your business. It's just awesome. It's awesome to have that greater impact and that ability to move everybody's lives forward at the same time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's remarkable. It's gratifying. Yep. I do one last thing that I want to share is when I first got plugged in with Renatus and I heard people talking with a depth of gratitude and reverence about Bob Snyder's leadership and about what Renatus makes available, it was borderline off-putting. So I was like, for real?
How come?
I'm with you. I know where you're coming from.
Well, it was a little like, my guru is so incredible and has like gifted me with enlightenment and and I was like, so what, real estate cult? What is this? And now 6 years later, I'm like, I don't think they expressed the depth of gratitude that fully. Right? Like the life that I get to live and I've got a couple friends approaching retirement age in St. Louis. They came to an intro. We had a kind of a teary conversation afterwards, and they got started with Renatus, and they've moved out of an apartment into a fourplex that now their housing pays for itself. They're self-directing. They were in a world where they were never going to be able to retire. And now they're a couple years from being free from work. And it's those kinds of experiences over and over and over again. Where, like, how can you not just be flushed with gratitude? And,
I'd be grateful.
I'm totally grateful. It's extraordinary.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everything that Renatus is about is empowering the individual. For those people that are out there looking for a better way, looking for a better path, a better day-to-day, for those people that are dissatisfied with where they're currently at and want to make a change, Renatus can be that change for them. And I agree. It is hard to fully express just the massive amount of good that Bob Snyder has facilitated into the world because of what he shares and how he shares, just that unreserved giving of teaching people how to make improvements in their own lives. That's really awesome. Tom, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You're a rock star, man. And
thank you.
On behalf of myself and Mr. Matt Snyder, we want to thank Aaron Peterson, who is our producer, our line editor, cutter in chief, the mystical hand
Aaron.
of floating life and stuff. I just,
making us look good.
Matt, you make me look good. I tell you what.
I do. I mean, that's, I'm just kidding.
I can't even make a joke about it when you come out that strong on me. Matt, I really appreciate you coming out here every week with me. We will be back next Tuesday. And next Tuesday, we actually have Umair and Yaz Hawk are going to be on the call or on the podcast. So you don't want to miss that. We're going to be back at our regularly scheduled time next Tuesday. On behalf of myself and everybody at the corporate team, thank you, Renatus Nation, for everything that you guys do. Renatus rocks because you rock.